Well, we're out here to show our support for teachers' right to teach the truth, teach all of U.S. history. There's been a really alarming movement in the country, around the country. 27 states have put forth bills trying to prohibit by law teachers from speaking about race and racism in U.S. history, as well as sex, sexism, gender, and other concepts that were labeled as divisive by the bill's authors. And one such bill was introduced in the Rhode Island General Assembly this past legislative season too, and it didn't make it out of committee, but it's probably going to be reintroduced next legislative session. And there have also been really troubling developments in local communities where citizens have been trying to really kind of disrupt school committee functioning by making these inordinate numbers of requests for public information. That is really a tactic that we know they're connected to larger conservative national groups. So we're just out here to really stand for the importance of teaching truth in our public schools and empowering teachers to be able to do that so students can be equipped to be good citizens. Already at this point, what we need is more of an awareness of the role that race and racism has played in our history, not less. So already our students have not been really adequately equipped to understand what is going on in current events and how our history has led up to that. But yeah, if you're going to try and walk us, as these proposed legislation is doing, if you're going to try and walk us backwards by prohibiting things, then it's impossible to really understand the context of where we are today without being able to talk about the really crucial things in our history that led us here. It's really important that we have a full account of history, and it's not, the point is to celebrate our the victories and the innovations in our history, but also to recognize that right alongside the story of this bold ideal of freedom and equality, there have unfortunately been, the reality has been oppression and exclusion that is, we see all around us. So in order to continue to work in a positive direction in our country, we have to equip students to really know how we got here and where we are, just like you said.
What do you think is the reason we had it here, particularly like we're having it here in Wickford? I know there was a previous one in Bristol, but are we picking these locations for any particular reasons? Is there like a thing happening here in Wickford or things that we should know about?
Well, the idea is that, Rhode Island was certainly involved in the slave trade, and in these very docks, ships came and brought people who had been captured from Africa to be sold as slaves here. So yeah, the history couldn't be any closer to us right here in Rhode Island. And again, with the proposed legislation, we wouldn't be able to talk about that. So it's a really concrete example of how close it is to our home. One thing that comes to mind is our country is really loves to cling to this value of individualism, this rugged individualism, lifting ourselves up by our own bootstraps, and how if people succeed, then it's as a result of hard work, and those doors are equally open to everyone. And that really omits how certain segments of population, particularly people of color, have been systematically denied the same opportunities. So it's not simply a question of like individualism, which is kind of what's emphasized in curricula probably, I think, really doesn't tell the whole story. It really leaves out a lot of the story, and it can mislead kids, both white kids and kids of color, to think like, oh, this is why things are the way they are, as opposed to understanding, oh, there's a lot more. There's systemic reasons that are why things are the way they are now, and we could actually, if we understood these better and had the will to do it, we could undo these and redo them to make a more truly equitable society that's really more in line with the values that our nation has been founded on. In order to keep making our country better and better, we need to face what has held us back. And denying or ignoring that just because it makes us uncomfortable is not the way forward. The way forward is, courageously facing our history and our present so we can, keep rolling up our sleeves and making progress. And just like you said, yeah, we're attempting to really convey that this is something that we can all really embrace if we the alternative to embracing teaching truth is what either teaching falsehood or omitting truth, and so that should be a big tent that everyone can get behind to equip students with the truth. Some people understand the timing of these attacks on educational curricula as not coincidental for two reasons. One, as a kind of a backlash against the tremendous gains we've made around the country in the past year, kind of prompted by the tragedies that were so well publicized, but the electoral victories. So this is also really connected to electoral politics. There's also this massive wave of voter suppression, and an educated electorate is an equipped electorate, and you can't create an educated electorate if you're barred from talking about the truth of history. So the voter suppression around the country, these efforts to gag teachers are really linked to that. So that's why we're not only standing for truth in education, but for standing for extending the right to vote to all citizens like it should be.